This isn't the video I had planned for today, but I think it is such an important topic that I decided to talk about it. This one might be controversial to some people, just a heads up. This is the point I want to make with this video. Linux isn't a threat to TF2, it's a necessity. For those unaware, Linux is the kernel, the core, to a whole family of operating systems. These operating systems, at least most of them, are completely free to use and distribute, and they are usually open source, meaning they are more easily customizable and safer to use, because the community can keep an eye on security flaws and propose fixes or improvements, not depending on the will of a single large company like Microsoft or Apple to do it. Also, some people, like myself, choose to use Linux because they believe computing should be open and accessible to anyone, regardless of software license limitations. If you want to know more about Linux, I'll link below a very informative documentary that's available here on YouTube about this topic. Now, I've been seeing a lot of people posting on Reddit and on the Steam community forums recently saying that Valve should end Linux support for TF2 as a means to stop the bots from invading servers, and that's been bothering me a lot. These people say that because the bots run on Linux, ending Linux support would end the bot problem, and that's a complete fallacy. Just so you understand where I'm coming from, besides this small YouTube channel I've started for English-speaking viewers, I'm a pretty relevant figure from South America's TF2 community. Alongside a pretty active YouTube channel, I run 11 community servers, 10 in Brazil and 1 in London, for people to play free of charge in a safe and welcoming environment. For several reasons, as I said before, mostly the belief that computing should be open source, I choose to play on Linux. Also, all my servers run on Linux for security and cost reasons. If I ran Windows servers, not only would they be more exploitable, but they would also cost me double and I wouldn't be able to host as many. Suggesting Valve should cut off Linux support from TF2 is a hideous idea. First, it would discriminate a legitimate portion of the player base. Alongside me, there are plenty of other legitimate players and community figures that run Linux. We are all Valve's customers, abiding by Steam's terms of service, like you, and we have the right to participate in the game we so much enjoy. Second, it would not solve the bot problem. The bots currently run on Cathook, an open source software. It is true that this software is currently distributed as part of a Linux distribution and runs on Linux. However, it wouldn't be impossible, or even hard at all, to port Cathook to Windows. The bot creators probably chose to distribute it alongside Linux because Linux is free and legal to distribute. Therefore, it is more convenient for them to use Linux as a base. If they needed to, they could port it to Windows and make it work on Microsoft's operating system. And believe me, they would have incentive to do that if Valve decided to cut Linux from TF2. Bot creators rent their services and make money with it. This has become a business for some, and they would easily solve these sorts of operating system restrictions to keep their income. Third, TF2 needs Linux support to survive long term. A lot of you frequently recommend community servers as an alternative to casual matchmaking, because they are better managed and usually safer from bots and cheaters than Valve's official servers. Well, do you know what operating system is most used for game servers around the world? That's right, Linux-based operating systems like Ubuntu Server. Because Linux is free, server providers don't have to pay operating system licenses, and the cost of running a server becomes a lot cheaper. As I stated earlier, I wouldn't be able to run 11 community servers if I couldn't run them on Linux, and I bet a lot of community projects, like creators.tf for example, wouldn't be viable in their current scale if the game didn't support Linux. Also, making sure the game client runs on Linux helps preserve it to posterity. We never know what sort of shenanigans Microsoft will pull on future Windows releases. There are countless games developed for older Windows versions that don't run on modern Windows. However, almost anything can be made run on Linux if the developers and the community put the effort into it. Supporting TF2 on Linux is supporting TF2 for future generations, regardless of what Microsoft decides to do with Windows. So, please, abandon this idea that Valve should stop Linux support for TF2. And I'm not saying this because I fear Valve would do that. Valve surely understands the importance of Linux support, because they're even working into making games from other companies playable on Linux through Steam Play, a compatibility layer built into Steam itself. I've decided to make this video because I believe it is harmful for the community to split itself and shun Linux players. We, Linux users, are part of the community as well. Some of us run the servers you play on every day. Some of us helped you cap the point in the last match you won. Some of us healed and Ubered you on your last kill streak. Some of us designed the maps, hats and skins you enjoy. Some of us produce the content you like to watch on YouTube. All of us suffer from this bot crisis, and discriminating against Linux players won't help solve it.